Greetings from the Tennessee World Affairs Council and welcome to our Global Dialogue 2026 webinar series. My name is Liane Henschke, Executive Director of the Council. Tennessee World Affairs Council is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization whose mission is to equip Tennesseans with the global understanding and civic confidence needed to translate world affairs into opportunity, leadership, and informed participation. We carry out this mission through several programs. Our webinar series, Global Dialogue and Global Nashville with Claudine. The Distinguished Speaker Series is our in-person events. We have 16 events per year. Our education initiative, Student Leaders Without Borders, and Global Eats, which brings together cultural exchange and conversation. Today, it is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Khaled Al Yousuf, whom I had the opportunity to meet during my visit to Qatar in May 2025 as part of a delegation to Georgetown University in Qatar. Mr. Al Yousuf serves as Executive Director of External Relations at the Georgetown University in Qatar. In today's conversation, he will share an on-the-ground perspective of the university and reflect on how the American institutions operates within the Gulf region, bringing cultures, education, and global engagement. We will have around 10 minutes of Q&A, so please use the chat to ask questions to the speaker. Let me introduce the host and moderator of today's webinar. Dr. Gretchen Neisler is TNWAC's board member and senior international officer at the University of Tennessee. She began work at UT in August 2018. She came to the university from Michigan State University, where she was the director of the Center for Global Connections in Food, Agriculture, and Natural Resources. She has an international portfolio that includes work across the Middle East, East Africa, West Africa, and Southeast Asia. Her responsibilities include working closely with the university community to lead the development of the university's strategic international agenda, representing the university to external constituents, both nationally and internationally, and overseeing the Center for Global Engagement, which encompasses the Office of Asia Engagement, programs abroad, international support services, international house, English language institutes, global research, and communications. Dr. Neisler obtained her PhD in Higher Education Administration, Master of Science in Agriculture Extension Education, and a BS in Agri-Science Education and Animal Science from the Michigan State University. So thank you both for being here today, as well as the participants of today's webinar.
Thank you, Leah.
Thank you, Leanne. It's my pleasure to be here. Good afternoon to everyone who's joining us. Just a little bit more of a roadmap for where we're headed today. The title of our session is Doing Business in Qatar, Global Partnerships, Higher Education, and Strategic Opportunity. So what we're hoping to accomplish today for all of you joining is to take a look at the region, the Gulf region, Qatar in particular, through the lens of higher education partnerships and global business engagement. We hope that this conversation enables you to better explore how Qatar has positioned itself as a hub connecting the United States markets across the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. And as Leanne mentioned, we are fortunate to be joined by Khaled Al Yousuf, who is at Georgetown University So what we're hoping is that a little bit that you'll come away with for today's webinar is that you'll have a chance to better understand how U.S. universities work globally, what they bring back to the U.S. In terms of opportunity and a better connection with the private sector. So I am wondering now, Mr. Al Yousuf, if you would like to provide a bit of an opening perspective for our participants today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Khaled Al Yousuf from Georgetown University in Qatar. From here on forward, I guess I'm going to refer to it as GUQ, so Georgetown University, Qatar, GUQ, which is part of Education City. Just a little bit before, I'd like to start with some simple facts just to put Qatar on the map and what is the size of Qatar. Honestly, I've always been impressed by the fact that the country itself is one of the smallest countries in the world. And we have one of the, I guess, probably also the least amount of people in terms of population in the world as well. So although we are so little, and I guess even in terms of land size, so we're 4,471 square miles, I guess. So 4,500 square miles. That's like 1/9 the size of Tennessee. And the population is a little bit over 3 million. And we're ambitious. We're ambitious people. We have people who are been quite open to the world. We like to reach out everywhere. We like to welcome, different businesses, different companies, different organizations into Qatar because we feel we could connect different parts of the globe. We feel that Qatar can be like a Lincoln hub between different countries, but also different regions, different geographies. And of course, one of the things that Qatar worked on developing is these extreme aviation routes between the different parts of the world and Qatar, which is currently, of course, as you all know, is being impacted by the situation in the region. We have less flights, but the flights are still presuming they're still taking place. And in terms of Georgetown, Georgetown has been established in Qatar now for 20 years. So people think this is a recent thing. No, it's been there for 20 years. And there are other American universities as well. We have Carnegie Mellon. My sister graduated from there. We have Weill Cornell. My other sister also graduated. She finished medicine. We have Northwestern, Texas A&M, but normally they're exiting. But then also we have HEC Paris as well. So we do have French schools. We do have some other universities, but they kind of fall out of Education City. So I'm going to focus just today on that project, which is GUQ is part of. So Education City is it's a multi-versity campus. It's a big campus that has all these universities that are there. But we didn't bring the entire university. So we asked each university to bring its best school. It's the part that they're specialized in the most, and to start there. And then they can grow. And this is what happened with Georgetown. So Georgetown started in Qatar as the School of Foreign Services. And this is, as you all know, the flagship of Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. And same thing, they approached Weill Cornell and they said, well, you guys are amazing at medicine, so why don't you open a school of medicine in Qatar? And this is what they did. And so they did the same with Northwestern for marketing, media communication. They did the same for Carnegie Mellon for business and IT. They did the same for Texas A&M for engineering. And they made the school work together to also to try to develop more projects, to try to have integrate some certificates, some minors, some majors. And which is funny because in the US, physically, it's impossible for you to do that. You cannot have the University of Tennessee physically across from, I don't know, a university up north or in the West Coast, like UCLA or something like that. But so I went to UNCG, by the way, University of North Carolina, Greensboro. So I graduated from there, by the way. Uh, I finished my bachelor there in 2006, which is that brings me some memories. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying. I'm sorry, Gretchen, if I talk too much, but I just wanted to give a small background of, and I would like to hear your questions and the rest of everyone
Sure.
thoughts.
That's great. Thank you so much. So, Khaled, for many people in Tennessee and across the US, Qatar may not immediately come to mind as a global hub for education and business. So, from your perspective, what do you think makes Qatar such a strategically important place today?
I mean, Qatar, it's globally engaged. The thing is, what most people don't realize that you have a lot of a strong economy. Definitely, it's built mainly around the energy sector in terms of oil and natural liquefied gas. But also with that sector, with that strong economic growth, you have countries from everywhere joining projects together. So just to give you an example, so Qatar to be able to produce so much amount of liquefied natural gas, there is the Americans are invested in it, the French are invested in it, the uh, Chinese are invested in it, the Japanese are invested in it. So, and this is when you enter a board meeting or a meeting room or a conference room, you will see different nationalities from all over the world. And Qatar works to connect all of these global links in a way. So if we take this to the perspective of education, we're always looking for what is the latest knowledge out there? What can we learn from, different educational institutions, different universities around the world? So we're very open to all the universities where we say, okay, whatever we can collaborate with, let's try to start there. Let's try to work there. We host one of the biggest global, you could say as well, education conference every 2 years, where it's
Yeah.
called WISE as well. This is a very famous event where education decision makers from key global positions, so from the United Nations level, from ministers of educations of different countries will come, and that means East and West. We're always trying to connect, bring people from Africa and people from Asia and people from Europe and the US and try to exchange ideas how we can improve education. Of course, the last theme was artificial intelligence and its impact on education during the last WISE event. But I believe, yeah, there is always, but of course, it comes with the opportunities because it's a growing sector right now, the education sector in Qatar. And you have a lot of universities who opened by themselves without even the partnership of the government or working with a major organization such as Qatar Foundation, for example. You have Canadian universities, you have French universities who are teaching law, who are giving master degree in international law, for example. They're teaching that. So they're seeing that there is a growing market for education. The region itself has one of the highest number of young people. you have a huge population of youth, unlike Europe, unlike for example, I guess East Asia population as well. Certain places like Japan, Korea, where you have an aging population. The Middle East itself has a very young population, and one of the best things when you have such a huge population for youth, you know, uh, one of the best things to offer them is higher education, is for them to be able to pursue their interest,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And that actually is a great segue into my next question. So, drawing on your lived experience of the cultural significance of education in the Gulf region, um, can you talk a little bit to our participants about this model of the education city? I
Mhm.
mean, you mentioned before that this is a concentrated area where schools from all different parts of the world have come together, and the idea is that they will seek synergy and collaboration. But at a time, particularly in the US and to some extent globally, higher education is really trying to show the value of a post-secondary education for versus the cost of what our students are investing in. So
Mhm.
I wonder if you can talk a little bit about how you see the model of Education City being this cutting edge way for educational institutions to engage in community, engage with each other, and then sort of leading us to the later part of our conversation about how we now see ourselves working with private sector.
Mhm. Okay. So, in terms of, let me start with Education City. Okay, like as you mentioned, Education City is an ecosystem. It has multiple top universities in one place. This, of course, was not done randomly. This was done purposely to bring out the best, to bring out a bit of competition, of course, healthy competition, I hope, but also is in a way is to attract very talented international students. So just to give you an example, at GUQ, we have 44% Qatari students versus 66% international students from different backgrounds, different nationalities, different religions, different races, different cultures, and I think represented at least by 80 nationalities. So we have 60% represented by 80 nationalities. Now, I don't like to use DC as an example because that makes them always upset. But in DC, it would be the percentage of the nationals that would be American citizens. It would be 90, I think 92% and 8% would be internationals, if it's
Right.
not less, to be honest. So education in this sense, it plays a role not only by the fact that we do have the curriculum for Georgetown University, but also it's that interaction that happens in class between these global students that makes them work together and are able to be one of the biggest exporters of liquefied natural gas in the world, for example, to make them ambitious to be the best, to develop and work for the best airline company in the world, to host the football World Cup that the US is now hosting. So this ambition that comes from the a very tiny population is quite ambition, and education has to do so much with it
Mhm.
to be able to be at the forefront of growth, of progress, of success, of trying to be your best. And this is, I think, one of the things that only not doesn't only reflect in our business, but also even it reflects in our politics through mediation, through negotiation, through trying to push for like stability, regional stability through different means. So this is one of the things that we always try to aspire for.
That's fantastic. And I think, it's important to note that oftentimes in higher education, particularly those of us engaged in global work, we talk often about the value of having different cultures represented so that our students are learning from one another. And I think there is an especially significant message for the state of Tennessee with a priority of workforce development, and also with a very vibrant foreign direct investment community here in the state, that what's happening organically in Education City, and particularly at GUQ, is that those students are learning how to be better employees, better leaders, because they are engaging with each other. And that's something that should not be underestimated in terms of the experience of students at our universities, that this is not, we are intentional about it, but truthfully, the best experiences happen organically when those students are put together and asked to then engage around academic curriculum, because I think then that's a much more real world, hands-on learning approach that I think in Education City that's been mastered. And like you said, in ways that we can't achieve domestically because we are not proximally located always to each other.
Yeah, so just to add to that, one of the responsibilities I also oversee at GUQ is career services. So a lot of the graduating internationals end up working and living in Qatar and even starting families. So the thing is, the system kind of feeds into itself. Of course, not everyone. There are people who go back to the US, who find opportunities, elsewhere in the world, but mainly the biggest cluster, they do remain in Qatar. They work in Qatar. I would say somewhere maybe, I don't want to exaggerate, but 40 to 50%, they do that. They find a job. Some of them they stay, some of them they move to Dubai, they move to other places in the region. And some go abroad, go home and go back to their families and work there as well. But we always try to keep in touch with them, and we're always and to feel to be able to have this connection and this reach globally is amazing, because it makes you able to work together much easier, to understand what are your needs versus another country where they can offer such need and they can satisfy.
Right.
And a lot of them, they end up working even in Qatar in international companies. Again, if we talk about American companies in Qatar, private sector by itself, ExxonMobil's portfolio globally, 19% of it is Qatar. So 19% of the net revenue of the largest oil and gas energy company in the US, based from Texas, ExxonMobil, generates 19% of its money from Qatar.
That's amazing.
So
Yeah.
you have a huge US interest invested already in Qatar itself, in its
Yes.
different projects across the supply chain. And of course there
Yeah.
are like other partnerships with major US companies who have their presence over there. So that's Boeing, they have research offices even. You have Google, you have Microsoft, you have Amazon. A lot of the big players from the US are already here. Yeah.
So that kind of you partially answered my next question, which is for the business leaders watching today, especially those in Tennessee, aside from the oil and gas industry that you've spoken of, and now you've added a couple in tech and in mobility, in the transportation mobility space, but where do you see Qatar investing, and where are international partnerships the most welcome from a sectoral standpoint?
I guess definitely right now things are shuffling quickly in terms of whatever is going to happen in the next week. But if let's be hopeful and optimistic that things can be resolved as soon as possible, so life can go back to 100% normal.
Yeah.
But I do see them investing still within education long term because they do believe one of the best ways to shift from an oil and gas dependent economy to a knowledge-based dependent economy. Not saying they'll get rid of oil and gas, but it's saying how we can optimize it, how we can produce it more efficiently, how we can try to also develop different sectors in the country. So tourism is definitely going to boom, I believe so. And they're also investing in the tech sector. They're trying to invest heavily in AI and develop an integration of AI. So they're not so afraid of AI, but it's for them, it's as long as it's there to optimize whatever it's there for, why not? If it's going to optimize the traffic of cars in the city and it will reduce or for example will monitor the water distribution system,
Yep.
which is also important for urban development. So they would definitely, okay, why not, let's bring this AI. And there is a lot of partnerships happening. I mean, I came across so many AI projects. I don't remember how many actually, but Qatar also offer a lot of research grants. They do work with many faculties, even faculties within Education City who are always seeking tenure. So it's for them, research is important. And yes, there is a process. You have to apply. You need to get a letter of interest from a ministry or from a government entity. But as soon as you do that, you get grant, and with it you can do research and excel. So we're doing I think for such a small country we're hyperactive, to be honest. So
Sounds like it, yes. So in one of our previous discussions, as we were preparing for today's webinar, you mentioned that you described Qatar as a gateway to the global south.
Mhm.
Can you explain what that means in practical terms for companies or institutions who are looking to expand internationally?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of times certain companies want to find a neutral ground where they can partner or they can try to see collaboration with different companies from other countries, from Africa, from Asia, for example, these countries don't have access to the US market. And Qatar has a very US friendly culture when it comes to the business. It has a very US friendly understanding because pretty much everybody over there speaks English. It's a second language. All the signs, all the streets, and a lot of the contracts and the business paperwork or regulations and processes and steps, everything is usually bilingual. So it's Arabic, of course, is the official language, but English is the second language. And pretty much the majority of the people there speak it. So it's very easy for an American company to go to Qatar and seek partnership with a coffee company from Tanzania, just an example, who's already exporting coffee to Qatar and then take that coffee back to the US. You know,
Yeah.
I'm just using the simplest example, what kind of partnership. Another way is, of course, to work directly with the government of Qatar or with national companies, semi-national companies, and you have a lot. You have telecommunication, they're huge in that. They have the oil and gas sector, but also you do have SMEs, so small to medium enterprise. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have to be, gigantic mega corporation to come. No, you can even come and I don't know, open a barbecue restaurant or something. I wouldn't, some camel ribs. I don't know, but that anything is possible. And yeah, we have all pretty much. So just to give you an idea, uh, it's between 16 and 20% the population of Qatars are Christians, by the way. So Qatar is also a multi-faith country where Christians live there freely and they can practice their faith. And this is something that we as Qataris have always been told to grow up respecting other people's religions, no matter what they are, what's their background, or anything like that. Of course, we have other faiths who live in Qatar's beside Christians, like Hindus, Buddhists as well. We have a big Asian population living in Qatar with us, and we also respect their faith. So.
Yes, that's great. That's very helpful to hear. And I wonder too, the history between the United States and Qatar, as you've mentioned, and the cooperation that's existed between these two countries. Can you say a little bit from your lens of working with and for Georgetown, but where do these academic partnerships help to strengthen sort of the broader diplomatic and economic relationships? Do you see that as a critical component to the success of this historical relationship?
Academic partnerships build people-to-people trust. They create long-term networks. They shared research, alumni ties, that they can last for decades. Over time, those relationships make business and broader cooperation much easier because trust already exists. And I think Qatari culture or regional culture is more generally is like this South in the US. So when I lived in North Carolina, I did feel like you need to gain people trust before you start doing business with them. And I think the same thing goes very well here in Qatar. So you have to show that you really want that to work, for example, on that project, or you want something. And because I guess when you receive opportunities from everywhere around the world, so it's like, how can you be selective about it, or how would you make that cooperation easier? So yeah.
I'm very happy to hear you say that. And I knew we were kindred spirits when we spoke before, but I'm happy to hear you say that because just yesterday I had the opportunity to speak with 18 science diplomats that we're hosting here at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville on our campus from 18 different European countries.
That's
and
amazing.
One of the things I was asked a question about the structure of the University of Tennessee as being the flagship research intensive and land grant university for the state of Tennessee. And why did I think that was significant to our global work? And my response was exactly what you just said, that our ability as an academic institution to forge these long-standing, trusting relationships with our partners span the time long beyond the life of any given contract, right? So we intentionally enter into these partnerships because there is value there for both organizations. And that is now something that we are really paying attention to in terms of the educational approach for our students, is to help them understand that these global networks that they have the opportunity to form while they're with us as students will serve them well into their careers. And I think that it's refreshing to hear that from literally the other side of the world, you two are working on those same things, because I really think that that holds the key to the future of where our young leaders are going to show up and how they're going to respond to the challenges that they face when they sort of take this leadership responsibility on. So thank you for making my point yesterday seem even more validated. But for our final question,
Education builds trust that outlast headlines, I guess. And
very good point.
you're moving from like short trips to long-term partnership. And yes, this is how usual business is trying to establish partnership that where both sides would win-win.
Yes, absolutely. And as the mother of twin boys that are teenagers who are getting ready to leave home and go do hopefully their post-secondary education, that I think that's really important, because they need to know how to get out in the world and work with and trust people who have had a very different background than they do. So I can't agree with you more. And I'm also wondering, and this might be a challenging question given where things currently sit today with where you are, but if you were to look 10 years ahead, what role do you see Qatar playing in the global economy and in international education?
I think in terms of the global economy, of course, Qatar will always have a position in terms of gas production. This is something that is always going to remain for Qatar as one of the leading producers, because we do have one of the largest single field of liquefied natural gas in the world. I think it happens to be the third largest recorded in the world. So in terms of, education, I do feel Qatar is going to deepen its role as a hub for education, for research, and for convening global partnerships. Because since Qatar is trying to become a hub that links the global south to the global north, you don't have that many direct flights, let's say, between the global south and the US as much as Qatar.
Right.
You have direct flights from Houston, from Boston, from New York, from DC, from Miami, from Los Angeles, from I don't know. I think one of the busiest airlines that actually has such access. So when you have that access, you already have a network that you have to understand. You also have a network of cargo, air cargo. So a lot of US products are shipped to Qatar. So I'm just putting this out there for your business leaders, listeners. But also, I do see the development of talent. So because you're investing in education, your return on that investment is definitely more innovation, more collaboration, and continued focused on being that connector between the global north and the global south, between the far east and the far west per se. Because for us, we are trying to be that connector purposely.
And a stable one, right? I think where my mind was when you were just making your last comment is do you view Qatar as the stability in the region for that connection to take place?
Yeah, absolutely, because we're one of the biggest champions for other nation problems where we want to resolve their situations. So we don't want to be the one ourselves instigating a conflict. We want to be the ones to put out the fire as soon as possible. It's because, the most important thing is to protect is human life. So once human life is protected, you can focus on development and growth and innovation, and to be as creative as you wish to be. And I think this is very important, to have such freedom in building a durable relation that opens doors to everyone.
So you may feel like you've touched on the answer to my next question, but if you were advising business leaders, university leaders, or policymakers that might be participating with us today, what is the one opportunity or the one global issue in the region that we should be paying more attention to, that we've been historically overlooking?
That's a tough one, Gretchen. Thank you. So, I mean, when it comes to Qatar itself, one of the long-term priorities for it, there are many things that are being emphasized today, which is definitely research is one of them. So I
Okay.
do see a lot of the universities here are taking lead, but as well, different institutions there, they're trying to put a big emphasis on research and the importance of research, but being methodological, but also peer-reviewed, audited properly. So a lot of this is being also quite developed, but also in terms of talent development. Because, I mean, when it comes to capital, let's be honest, Qatar has a lot of capital. It doesn't need external investors.
Right.
But for us, we'd prefer that, oh no, we have a big project, okay, but we would like to work with different companies. And this is where we would learn from them, the know-hows, but also they will have this long-term partnership. It's not a market entry. You don't enter a market and you're like, oh, I got, 5% of the Qatari market. No, you are building a partnership platform. Really, you're going there for the long run. And yeah, I do believe, you know, build people, build partnerships, and that would build the future, I think.
Okay. Do you think that that might also point to something that is most misunderstood about Qatari culture or business in Qatar? I mean, what do you think is from a Western perspective, what's the most misunderstood?
Oh, I think, I mean, as long as you're not being too pushy like people from the north, don't want, so it's you have to be patient. Again, I did mention, people value trust. And it's I think this is one of the most important things, is to understand that yes, things are not Wall Street style in Qatar. No, things is like you have to come in, take your time, attend few conferences, few events, meet people, let yourself be known, let people know who you are as a person. Are you worth are you trustworthy or not, right? So
Yes.
if you're not trustworthy, then like, oh, okay. So like people who are coming for quick wins are probably not going to be able to go very far. They might
Yep.
get something, but I'm not saying. But people who come for to be more aligned, with, for example, oh, okay, you are GUQ, you teach public policy. I need somebody to help me draft and review my own public policy. So the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, a lot of the public policy in Qatar has been developed by top tier universities, researchers, and faculties working together. So the question here is, do we keep our old laws or do we develop? Because the world has changed, the world has opened up,
Yes.
together. So, and I think this is where we say, oh, yes, we should adapt like new public policy. So even Georgetown or faculty within Georgetown, like, different faculty, especially our econ faculty, we're one of the best in economics. They are working very closely with the private sector. They're working very closely with different companies, different organizations, but also with the Ministry of Finance, also with the central bank, also. So that would be the equivalent of the US Treasury. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and opportunities are really there. There's so much potential because, again, the youth population is growing. You
Yes.
know, we, I don't know, have a lot of kids. So that's so which is good. We want to have a bigger communities, and the healthcare is growing, schools are
Mm-hmm.
opening. Uh, yeah, and we're bringing more and more global events as well to Qatar. So sometimes I feel like, am I in Qatar or am I in Vegas? Why there are so many shows happening in one week? So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, some of your previous comments called to mind for me, the pull on another sort of cultural norm, which is the notion of 3 cups of tea, right? From the Pakistani culture, and the notion that you have to slow your roll a little bit and take the time to get to know each other and come together and connect on something other than the business of that particular day, which I find myself a lot explaining to our students before they get ready to go out into the world, that you just need to slow your mind so that you can fully appreciate what you're doing. So I see Leanne has come back on screen. I just want to say thank you. I'm so appreciative of your time. I know we're spanning different time zone differences today as well, and so I appreciate your willingness to connect with our group here online today and share a little bit about your experiences and about what life is like. So thank you. Thank you very much.
thank you, Gretchen. No, it's my pleasure actually to be interviewed by you. I'm so honored, and also I'm very happy that I'm able to deliver a different perspective, I guess, from across the globe. It's my pleasure. I wish I was there with you guys actually, but
Yes. Well,
hopefully
you're
I'll
most
try.
welcome. We'll
I would,
host you
I
on
would
Rocky Top anytime.
I would love to. I would love to. I will see, if I'm able to escape DC, for a few days, because that's usually my stop in the States. I have to go to the main campus and
Right? The
do some.
mothership, right?
Exactly, exactly. And we've been trying to build really, so I know SFS is there, but also we're working with the School of Health in DC. We're working with different like the School of Public Policy, and we're trying to connect them to different projects in Qatar, but also across the region. So in a way, we are helping being a regional hub as well for our main campus, I would say,
That's
then this
awesome.
is the Qatar, the campus. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. God bless
Yeah.
you.
Thank you so much, Khaled
Thank
and
you.
Gretchen. I mean, it was wonderful. As a previous university professor, I always appreciate that dialogue of workforce education and also the international dimension that our people, our students need to have working in international companies at home or abroad. I think that is very, very important. It reminds me when I went to I was invited to the WISE conference in 2013. So I went to Qatar for the first time.
Wow.
And it was amazing. It was a cultural, part of discussions of science, of education, and care for our children, for our undergraduates, and future professionals. So your country has excelled, Khaled, and thank you always very much for being here, despite all the situation that's going on right now.
And
So
then we did it with partnering with different
yeah.
people from all over the world, including, GU in Washington, D.C., or Cornell, or different organizations, or even beyond that in the private sector, as Gretchen mentioned. So we did it with that global partnership. I think when people come together, they can achieve whatever they want. So
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree. And both of you are, very high achievers, and I admire both of you. So thank you very much once more, and to our attendees today, thank you for being with us. TNWAC always brings the best people here, professionals, to talk about global affairs. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
thank you.